Hi, I'm Tam from Sacred Echo and welcome to my channel. Thank you so much to all my lovely subscribers who voted for this video. I know it's taken me a while to get it out. Life gets busy, you know how it goes. But signs you might be astral traveling in my own experiences. Have you ever woken up from a dream and thought, that wasn't just a dream? It feels like I actually went somewhere. Not just because it was vivid or strange, but because your body remembers it. You felt it. Sensations, textures, energy, movement, maybe even that strange sense of coming back when it was over. That is what I want to talk about today. I've had dreams my whole life. Most of us do. But over time, I've started to notice that some experiences feel completely different from ordinary dreams. These experiences have happened during sleep, during meditation, during ritual, and during spiritual practices. And personally, I interpret some of these as traveling in the astral realm. But I want to make something really clear before we go any further. I'm not saying that this is definitely what astral travel is, and I'm not saying that your experiences have to match what I've experienced. And I'm certainly not here to tell anybody, that you have or you haven't astral traveled. I'm simply sharing what I've noticed through my own experiences and inviting you to reflect on your own, because your experiences could be completely different from mine, and I think that matters. So the body is a huge part of it for me. One of the biggest differences for me is the body. We often talk about spiritual experiences as though there's something separate from our physical selves, as if spirituality happens somewhere up here in our consciousness, our mind, or our spirit, and the physical body is just kind of like left behind. But my experiences have almost always been the opposite. The body is actually central. And I think feeling into the body is an important part of spiritual work in general. We can become so focused on trying to understand something intellectually or spiritually that we don't realize we've disconnected ourselves from what our body is actually telling us. Because the body gives us information. And when I have an experience that I interpret as astral, I can feel things. There can be energetic shifts like movement, touch. Sometimes there's a definite sensation of traveling, floating, sinking, moving through something. And sometimes there is a sudden return, a snap, a drop, that feeling of suddenly being completely back in your physical body. And that is really difficult to explain to somebody who hasn't experienced it, because it isn't simply remembering something that happened in a dream. It's almost like your body remembers having been there. Astral experiences can feel embodied. There have been experiences where I've interacted with something in what I interpreted as an astral space and felt the physical sensation of that interaction. And that can be incredibly strange. I've experienced this through ritual as well. For example, during spiritual work involving Yog's Thoth, I had an experience where I was traveling through a sigil. As I traveled through this sigil, I had different experiences, and I It was as if I actually lived those experiences. I felt them in my physical body. So when I returned from that dream, I knew I'd been in the astral realm. I'm not going to tell you all the details of that experience. That's probably for another time. But the important part for this discussion is that I didn't simply see something, I actually felt it. And when I returned to ordinary waking consciousness, there was a distinct feeling that I'd come back from somewhere. That embodied quality is something I've learned to pay attention to. It can happen in meditation too. And this doesn't only happen to me when I'm asleep. I can experience something similar during meditation. Sometimes I can be very deep in meditation and something will appear. It might be an image, it might be an environment, or a presence, or an energy. Something that I wasn't consciously trying to create. And when it appears, I can sometimes feel the energy of whatever that is within my body. That's one of the reasons that I don't personally think of these experiences as purely mental or visual. There is a felt component, and I've had people describe similar things when I've taken them into very deep meditation using sound and crystal bowls. People can become incredibly deeply relaxed, and afterwards they might tell me they felt as though they were sinking. Sometimes it feels as though they're sinking through the floor. And sometimes there were vivid images or environments. Sometimes they describe feeling as though they went somewhere. And then, as they return to normal awareness, there can be a sudden sensation of being pulled or snapped back into their body. Now, what exactly is happening there? I don't have a definitive answer for that. I might personally interpret some of those experiences through an astral or spiritual framework. Someone else might interpret them differently. But I think the physical component is fascinating because, again, the body is involved. The difference between an ordinary dream and something else, when I compare these experiences with ordinary dreams, the difference can sometimes be quite stark. We all know how ridiculous dream logic can be, right? So you're in your childhood house, except somehow it's also your workplace, or somebody you haven't seen for 20 years walks through the door, except now they're somebody completely different. Suddenly you're somewhere else entirely. And while all of this nonsense is happening, your dreaming brain is apparently going, yep, completely normal. But some of my experiences are different. The environment can feel stable. I'm actually somewhere. I can look around. I can move through the environment. I can make decisions. Things can happen that I wasn't expecting. And there can be a very strong sense of I'm here. There are similarities with lucid dreaming, even sleep paralysis, the states between sleeping and waking, deep meditation and other altered states of consciousness. So be aware of that also. And that's why, well, that's exactly why I don't want to put, here's the 7 signs that you're astral traveling, because I don't think it works like that. You might experience astral traveling completely different from me. And you may never experience some of the things that I've described. Most useful things I've learned: keep a journal near your bed. If something happens, write it down as soon as you can and try not to interpret it while you're writing. I know it sounds funny, but document the experience first. Where you were, what did the environment look like? Were there any other presences there? Did you feel anything in your body? Um, you know, were you aware of yourself? Could you make decisions? Did anything surprise you? Did you receive a name, a symbol, a message? And then let it sit, because sometimes it's the extraordinary experience that convinces you something unusual is happening. And when you look back through months or years of experiences and realize, hang on, this keeps happening, patterns begin to emerge. And if there is one thing I really want people to take from this video, it's this: feel before you explain. Come back into the body instead of rushing immediately into interpretation. Where does the experience live in your body? What happens when you remember it? What sensations arise? What emotion is attached to it? Because I think sometimes we separate our spiritual selves from our physical selves far too much. We're trying to go up there, out there, into something, but meanwhile, we're forgetting about the physical body sitting right here giving us information. And personally, I've come to see my body as one of the most important parts of my spiritual practice. Spiritual experience doesn't necessarily happen separately from us. It happens through us. And that is certainly, or has certainly, been true for me. I also think sometimes the most useful thing I can offer isn't an answer. It's permission. Permission to go slowly. If you've experienced something profound, it doesn't have to fit somebody else's framework in order to matter to you. And you don't have to immediately decide that was definitely astral travel, or that was definitely a deity, or that was definitely just a dream. You can simply say, something happened, it affected me, and I'm going to pay attention to it. Some things unfold gently over time, and if something tender or unsettling, you can pause. Spiritual exploration doesn't have to become overwhelming. For me, curiosity is much more valuable than certainty. Your experience doesn't have to look like mine. I'm not here to tell you what your experience has to be. I'm here to share mine and to hold space for the complexity of these experiences, because I think the more openly we can talk about them without telling each other what we must believe, the more interesting the conversation becomes. So I'd really love to hear from you. Have you ever had a dream, meditation, or other experience that felt fundamentally different from an ordinary dream? Do you believe that you've been to the astral realm? And if you feel comfortable sharing that, please share your experience here. Anyway, that's enough of me. I hope you've gotten something out of this video. It's quite a bit longer than I'd planned and took me quite a lot longer to do, quite frankly. But I'm glad that I've done it now, and I thank you so much for all your support on my channel, and have a lovely week. Blessed be, and thank you for watching.